Okay, here we go. Huge news. This is the modern day equivalent of demanding a trade. Saquon Barkley with a huge hint about his feelings about his future last night, doing what he and all other athletes do in 2023. He scrubbed the Giants from his Twitter and Instagram pages. This is, in this day and age, about as significant as can be. That is his Instagram, or excuse me, that's Twitter. That's his Twitter profile right now, this coming days after he and the team could not agree on a long-term contract at the deadline for tagged players. And I will say it again, for those of you who are my age and wondering, does this really mean anything? Yes, it does. This is the modern day equivalent of holding a press conference and saying, I want out.
This is 2023 in its greatest form. This is the way young athletes now, and just young people in general, the way they communicate and get messages across, Greeny. And I would say this, and I really wish Saquon was watching this right now, and I hope he is. You have to make the decision that is best for you, that you have to live with for the rest of your life. Because there's all different kind of avenues that this decision can turn. And you really want it to turn the right way, but you have to live with the decision if it doesn't turn the right way or if it goes the wrong way. And we had Chris Johnson yesterday on ESPN radio, and I think he said something that was very important because he was a running back that held out in 2011. And he held out for his money, and he ended up getting this money. But I asked him how long did it take him to get back into, game shape to his normal form. And he literally said 6 weeks. And he did not have the year that he wanted to have, but it took him 6 weeks to get back into his full stride because there's nothing that Saquon can do outside of being there with the team that can prepare him for being in shape the way he would be if he was in training camp. There's nothing you can do.
And let's be clear about the difference as well. When Chris Johnson held out, when players of previous generations held out, they could be holding out for a new contract. The team could make him happy, could make him want to put the Giants back on his Twitter and Instagram bios by giving him the new contract he wants. That is now off the table for the Giants because of this rule that was placed in there just by the owners for their own benefit. A player, we have now passed the deadline. Saquon has two choices, Jeff Darlington. Yes, he either play for the $10.1 million this year or not. There is no third option for Saquon right now.
There is no third option, and he will never get that $10 million back. And the question we have to ask ourselves, of course, is if he does sit out, is it a matter of principle or is it good business? But when it comes to building a championship roster, this is the way they're looking at it. In the past 15 years, there's been only 3 Super Bowl champions with a 1,000-yard rusher on the team. You can go from good, you can go from bad to good with a great running back, but going from good to great, generally, that's not the way it happens.
That's 100% right. And even if you could, the business side of this, Nico, I can see you shaking your head because it is frustrating. I feel the frustration for them. But the reality is, if I were sitting where the decision makers are sitting, I would do the same thing. You draft Saquon high, you run him for 5 years. If he's still doing well, then you franchise him. You could franchise him again. And by that time, every running back is starting to trend downward. It is a cold, hard, horrible reality for running backs. And Nico, I think something you were telling us on our call this morning was really important about the frustration that a player like Saquon must be feeling right now. It's something that you know from personal experience.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the meeting this morning in production meetings. I have been in a situation where I'm not by any means in Saquon's position of being the best running back in the NFL, but you put yourself in a position where you're trying to have a contract that reflects the production that you have put out there on the football field and the leadership that you bring to the locker room. So when the team comes to you and they're giving you a contract that you feel doesn't represent the value that you bring to the organization, that is when your emotions can take over and the frustration can turn into anger, and it can turn into this, I'm scrubbing my social media of everything that has to deal with you. And that's like a girlfriend. When you break up, you take everything out of every single platform that in any way brings you to that person. So with Saquon, it's really tough and it's difficult because he is the identity of the Giants. Last year, they were a physical, run the football first football team. And then Daniel Jones reaps the benefits of that as an average quarterback. So in my experience, you are playing to maximize the time that you have in the NFL, which is very short. So You have to get what you feel is deserving of your performance and your leadership. And for Saquon, it's got to be really hard for him to look at the quarterback who's making $40 million a year, who basically relies on him to run the ball, to set up his play action passes, and he's mediocre. So if I'm Saquon, I'm telling, hey, Daniel, go get some more bubble wrap, go put double braces on, brace up, and you run the football, and I'll watch.
Jeff, go ahead.
He can't do it. He's got to get, like, I get it. It's got to be so maddening, so frustrating. But for his own self, for his own personal interest, he's got to get past this because he has to go put up another great year. And that's the unfortunate reality. But if he wants to eventually get paid, whatever that top dollar is, he has to have a great year. He has to put spite and principle behind him. Here's the deal. The franchise tag since 2015, there is one position that has gone down in value while every other position has skyrocketed.
Yep.
Defense, offense, that one position, as you know, is the running back.
I read your tweets on the air the other day when you were tweeting about that the other day. It is fascinating. The franchise tag, let's make sure the audience understands what you're saying. The franchise tag is basically the average of the top paid players at a particular position. Over the last few years, that number has skyrocketed for many positions, particularly quarterback. For the running backs, it has actually gone down. So that is the market speaking to us. It is telling Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs and all these other guys, unfortunately, it's not you, it's the position you play. We just don't value it the same as others. And Ninko, I see you shaking your head. That's just the reality. I get it. It's awful. He's the most important player on that team. But not only isn't he going to get the money he wants from the Giants, he wouldn't get it from anybody else either. It is a terrible situation to be in, but it is where we have found ourselves. Nate, go ahead.
Listen, you're in a bad spot when the other person that you're negotiating with says, it's got nothing to do with you. It's everything else. It's the other factors that are making us do what we are doing right now. So for Saquon, it has to be extremely frustrating. In 2011 with the rookie pay scale, because when I was drafted in 2006, Reggie Bush, his initial contract was like $60 million, I do believe. It was a very big contract. So once they put that rookie pay scale in, if you are a first-round running back, they were just going to use you up for 5 years, franchise tag you, have control over you for 6, and then never pay you. So it all started in 2011.
So, Harry, let me ask you the question that I've asked a few others here this week. I asked Louis Riddick this question. I asked Ryan Clark, and I'll ask it to you. You're an NFL vet, and now you've been a respected voice talking about the league for a while. If your phone rings today, and it's Saquon Barkley, and he's saying to you, hey, Harry, what should I do? What would you tell him to do?
Honestly, what he feels is best for himself. Because we can listen to everybody else and get advice from everyone else, but what's the point of getting advice from somebody else and 100% you don't want to do that, but you get that advice from someone who's close to you and you do it and it gets derailed. Right? So I think truly Saquon Barkley has to be able to live with himself in the decision that he makes and look in the mirror and be okay with that. Whether it's good or it's bad, whether it's positive or negative, he has to live with the decision that he makes for himself, not what everyone else around him wants him to do, but what he truly wants to do and can live with when he looks in that mirror.
No, I think that makes all the sense in the world. And look, I will repeat again where we began. Oh, here you are over here. Where we began the show today is that he scrubbed the Giants off of his social media. There is nothing that is going to change. Jeff, I mean, you correct me if I'm not getting this exactly right. Nothing about his contractual situation is going to change from now until after the upcoming season. So he's either going to put the Giants back on his social media and show up or not. But there is nothing that they can do contractually to change his feelings.
Yeah, just to explain to people who don't understand what we're talking about, July 17th was the deadline for players that got the franchise tag earlier this offseason to negotiate a long-term deal with their team. So July 18th, no longer can Saquon Barkley or any other franchise tag player negotiate with their team. That is where we stand until next offseason.
And if you're asking yourself, why is that rule in there? You're asking a very good question. It is exclusively there. It is not serving any other purpose except for the NFL teams not to have a headache starting on July 18th when their training camps begin. There's nothing Saquon can do.
Don't ask me that question.
We will keep a close eye on his Twitter and Instagram pages. That's where we are these days. In the meantime, if you're wondering just how hardworking the crew of Get Up is, take a look at Jeff Darlington right before we came on the air this morning. He's wiping down the windows. Take a look. That is Jeff right out there. Jeff, talk us through this.
He's like the guy at the red light. Can I wash your windows for $5? He's like the guy at the red light, man. I see you, Jeff.
Yeah, can we get this man a squeegee?
It's hot out, man. We got condensation. You kidding me? I got the Chamber of Commerce all over me. They need to see those palm trees, baby.
That's Jeff Darlington getting ready for Get Up this morning. That's the kind of day. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.